Liverpool's push for a Champions League place received a timely lift this weekend, with manager Arne Slot's men doing their own job before watching rival results fall partially in their favour. The Reds secured victory over West Ham United, and while Manchester United managed to hold on for 3 points against Crystal Palace, Chelsea suffered a damaging defeat at Arsenal, a result that hands Liverpool a genuine opportunity to close the gap in the race for Europe's Premier Club competition. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates. Slot spoke before the West Ham match with characteristic calm, making clear that his focus remains squarely on his own side rather than the wider table. The way I see it, this is another game for us and we are not so focused on other teams as all managers always say, the Dutchman told reporters. We are only focused mainly on ourselves. We know we need to win a lot of games because our competitors for these Champions League places are very good teams as well. Winning a lot, that is where our focus is. Not so much about points and gaps, although we are aware of the table. That's for sure. Those words proved to be precisely what was needed to settle his squad, as Liverpool duly went out and delivered the result. The victory moved the Reds into 5th place in the Premier League table, sitting 3 points adrift of both Manchester United and Aston Villa, who occupy the 2 final Champions League qualification spots. The weekend had begun with a hint of what might be, as Aston Villa stumbled to defeat at Wolves on Friday evening. That result served as a useful warning to Liverpool, who face Villa in a crucial double-header next week. Manchester United, meanwhile, looked to be heading for a setback of their own against Crystal Palace, going a goal behind in the early stages of the contest. However, a red card changed the shape of the game dramatically, and Michael Carrick's side recovered to clinch a narrow but vital win. It was a frustrating outcome for Liverpool, who had briefly entertained hopes of seeing United drop points. But it was Chelsea's afternoon at the Emirates Stadium that ultimately provided the biggest boost for Slot's side. The Blues had performed reasonably well for long stretches of the contest at Arsenal, but characteristically unravelled at a critical moment. Goalkeeper Robert Sanchez was particularly culpable, producing an erratic display that repeatedly put his own side at risk. He misjudged several aerial balls and came perilously close to handing Arsenal easy goals on more than one occasion, as the Reds looked on with barely concealed satisfaction. The situation was made significantly worse when winger Pedro Neto was dismissed for a second bookable offence in rapid succession, having already been cautioned earlier in the match. Neto's challenge was reckless and wholly avoidable given his disciplinary situation, and his early exit effectively ended any realistic chance of Chelsea salvaging a positive result. They ultimately left North London empty-handed, dropping further ground in the top 5 race. For Liverpool, the result offered more than just 3 points for themselves. It opened up a potential window in the fixture calendar. A glance at the coming weeks reveals an intriguing contrast between the two clubs' schedules. Chelsea face a deeply challenging run of opponents, starting with a trip to Aston Villa, followed by difficult encounters against Newcastle United, Everton, and both Manchester clubs. These are not games that Chelsea can take for granted, particularly given the inconsistency they have shown throughout the campaign. Liverpool's schedule, while far from straightforward, appears more navigable on paper. Next up is a midweek trip to Wolves on Tuesday, a ground where Aston Villa lost at the weekend, highlighting the danger, before matches against Tottenham Hotspur, Brighton, Fulham and Everton. Each of those fixtures carries its own risks, and Slot will demand nothing short of maximum effort from his squad in each one. But in comparison to what Chelsea must navigate, the Reds arguably have the kinder run in. The table remains tightly contested and Liverpool cannot afford complacency. The club's recent form has been mixed, and Slot himself has acknowledged as much in press conferences throughout the season. Injuries have complicated team selection at various points, and the depth of the squad will be tested in the weeks ahead. However, the character shown in grinding out victories when performances have not always been at their best is an encouraging sign as the season enters its decisive phase. The Champions League qualification battle is firmly on and Liverpool are in the thick of it. 3 points this weekend, a helping hand from elsewhere, and a more favourable looking fixture list. For now, at least, the picture is looking a touch brighter at Anfield. Slot has spoken throughout the season about the importance of controlling what the club can control, and his players have largely responded to that mentality. There is a belief within the group that when performances are at their best, Liverpool are more than capable of competing with any side in the division. The noise around the club in recent weeks has not appeared to distract the squad, and that ability to focus on results is something Slot has cultivated since taking charge. Whether his side can sustain the momentum through a demanding schedule will be the defining question of the coming week. Mohamed Salah's future at Liverpool is coming under intensifying scrutiny, with reports now suggesting that a summer departure from Anfield is appearing increasingly likely. According to BBC Sport, both Major League Soccer in the United States and the Saudi Pro League have been identified as possible destinations for the Egyptian forward, who signed a new 2-year contract at the club last year, but whose relationship with the management has appeared strained in recent months. The 33-year-old's situation at Liverpool has been one of the most talked about storylines of the 2025-26 Premier League season. Salah made headlines in December when he suggested, in candid post-match remarks, that the club had effectively shown him the door. He expressed a belief that Liverpool had distanced themselves from him and hinted that a mid-season exit was not entirely out of the question. Those comments sent shockwaves through the football world, particularly among the Anfield faithful, who view Salah as one of the most important figures in the club's modern history. The January transfer window passed without any movement, and Salah remained at Liverpool as the deadline came and went. Since returning from his participation in the Africa Cup of Nations with Egypt, the forward has featured in the starting 11 for every Premier League fixture. Yet, despite that regular involvement, questions over his long-term future at the club have refused to go away. He has managed only 2 goals in 9 club appearances across all competitions in 2026 and has gone without a Premier League strike in 6 consecutive league matches since the turn of the year. A run of form that has been widely noted and, in some quarters, used as ammunition in the debate over his place in the team. Manager Arne Slot addressed the situation publicly earlier this season, offering his backing to the Egyptian international and defending his record despite the scrutiny. Slot's public support has helped contain the situation to some degree, but it has not silenced the broader conversation about what comes next. With Salah now 33 years of age, the club will need to make a clear decision about whether his future lies at Anfield beyond the current contract period. The Saudi Pro League has long been viewed as a natural landing spot for high-profile European footballers of Salah's calibre and age, having attracted a number of global stars over the past 2 years with significant financial packages. MLS, meanwhile, has emerged as an increasingly attractive proposition for elite players in the later stages of their careers, offering a competitive league environment alongside the commercial opportunities of the American market. Both options are now being cited as realistic possibilities for the Egyptian if he does indeed leave Anfield at the end of the season. There is also a name being discussed as a potential replacement. Liverpool are understood to view Real Madrid's Brazilian forward Rodrigo as an option to fill the wide attacking role should Salah depart. The 24-year-old faces an uncertain future at the Bernabeu, despite having been one of the club's more reliable performers in recent campaigns. Arsenal, Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspur are also said to have expressed interest in the Brazilian, meaning Liverpool would face stiff competition for his signature. Bringing Rodrigo to Anfield would represent a significant and ambitious piece of business and would signal a clear willingness to reshape the forward line for the next phase of the club's development under Slot. Elsewhere in transfer news that touches on Liverpool's defensive planning, the club has been linked with Borussia Dortmund centre-back Nico Schlotterbeck. The German international is entering the final year of his contract with the Bundesliga side, making him an appealing prospect for clubs unwilling to pay a premium fee. Real Madrid have now reportedly joined the race for Schlotterbeck, adding a further layer of competition to proceedings. Liverpool's interest is understood to be driven at least in part by the contractual situations of 2 of their current defensive pillars. Ibrahima Konate is in the final months of his deal at Anfield. While Virgil van Dijk's contract is set to expire at the end of next season, the club has already moved to bolster the defensive department by agreeing a deal to sign Jeremy Jacquet from Stade Rennais ahead of the summer window. The coming months will prove decisive in shaping Liverpool's squad for the seasons ahead. Whether Salah remains or moves on, Arne Slot faces a significant series of transfer decisions that will define the next chapter of his tenure at Anfield. For now, one of the world's most recognisable footballers finds himself at a crossroads, with the clock ticking on a glittering chapter in English football. What is certain is that the club cannot afford to drift into the summer without a clear plan. The decisions made in the coming weeks over Salah's contract status, the pursuit of a replacement winger and the reinforcement of the defensive unit will have lasting consequences for Liverpool's trajectory. Slot has proven himself a pragmatic and thoughtful manager since arriving at Anfield, and those qualities will be needed in abundance as he navigates one of the most consequential off-seasons the club has faced in recent memory. The supporters, understandably, will be watching every development with close attention, hoping that the club's hierarchy can deliver the clarity and ambition required to maintain Liverpool's standing as a force in European football. The transfer market is heating up across the Premier League, with Manchester United pursuing what could become a historic piece of business at the back, while Liverpool are reportedly edging closer to signing Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers, a deal that could reach $100 million and reshape the Reds' attacking options for next season. Starting with Manchester United's defensive ambitions, Michael Carrick's side have been strongly linked with Newcastle United's Malik Thiaw. The German centre-back has impressed greatly since arriving in English football and has quickly established himself as one of the more reliable defenders in the top flight. However, Newcastle have slapped an eye-watering valuation on his head. Reports from the Telegraph suggest the Magpies are demanding in the region of $80 million for the 23-year-old. Should that figure be met, Thiaw would become the most expensive centre-back in the history of football. United's reported interest therefore represents a bold statement of intent, even if the final fee could prove prohibitive. United have also been credited with interest in Nottingham Forest's Brazilian defender Murillo, whose performances at the City ground this season have drawn attention from several major clubs. Talks between Old Trafford and Forest are said to be ongoing, with the player himself understood to be keen on the prospect of a move to a larger stage. A fee upwards of $60 million has been cited in connection with any potential deal. Murillo is the third Forest player to be linked with United in recent months, following reported interest in England midfielders Elliot Anderson and Morgan Gibbs-White. Anderson in particular has been heavily scouted, and Forest have set a firm asking price of at least $75 million, a figure that has also attracted interest from Manchester City, who are said to believe they are ahead of their City rivals in any potential pursuit. Turning to Liverpool, the club's reported pursuit of Morgan Rogers is one of the most talked about transfer stories of the current window. The 22-year-old Aston Villa midfielder has been one of the standout performers of the Premier League season and has attracted widespread admiration for his technical quality, athleticism and ability to contribute directly to goals. According to a report from Anfield Watch, Villa may be forced to sell Rogers if they fail to qualify for the Champions League at the end of the current campaign, largely due to the financial pressures the club faces given their significant investment in recent years. Liverpool are said to be the team best positioned to capitalise should that scenario unfold, with a deal potentially worth as much as $100 million, approximately $134.8 million, now considered a genuine possibility. The prospect of Rodgers at Anfield would represent a major statement from Arne Slot and the Liverpool board, and would also underscore the club's ambitions heading into next season, regardless of how the current campaign concludes. Rodgers would bring a different profile to the midfield, adding a dynamic and versatile presence capable of operating in multiple positions. In other transfer developments of note, Chelsea find themselves in a complicated position with two of last summer's major signings. Alejandro Garnacho and Liam Delap have both reportedly been made available for sale by the Stamford Bridge hierarchy less than 12 months after the pair were acquired at considerable cost. Together, the two forwards cost somewhere in the region of $70 million, and the club would require a fee approaching that figure before agreeing to part with either. The decision reflects a broader uncertainty at Chelsea about the direction of the squad and the style of play the club wishes to pursue. Chelsea also feature in discussions over Real Madrid's Rodrigo, a name that appeared in the context of Liverpool in yesterday's news. According to Spanish publication Fichajes, Chelsea are prepared to offer as much as $61.3 million for the Brazilian, and that approach is expected to be taken seriously by Real Madrid. With multiple clubs interested and Rodrigo's status at the Bernabeu unclear, his situation will be one to follow closely as the summer approaches. Victor Osimhen's future also continues to generate considerable attention. The Nigerian striker, currently on loan at Galatasaray, has an unusual clause inserted into his contract by former club Napoli, which would require the Turkish side to pay a $61.3 million penalty if they were to sell him to Juventus specifically. That restriction, however, does not apply to other clubs, meaning that Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool and Arsenal could all pursue the striker without triggering that clause, which may ultimately work in their favour. Amid all these stories, one thing is clear. The summer transfer window is shaping up to be an exceptionally busy one, with Liverpool and Manchester United both facing pivotal decisions that will define the next era of their respective clubs. For Liverpool, the priority is twofold: qualifying for the Champions League on the pitch and assembling the squad needed to compete at the highest level. Morgan Rogers, if secured, would represent a powerful statement of that intent. For United, the challenge of rebuilding a defence begins with decisions like the pursuit of Thiaw or Murillo. Carrick's men have shown resilience in recent weeks, but structural investment in quality will be essential if they are to challenge the top sides. The rumour mill shows no signs of slowing down.